Hi, I'm Al Hirsch, also known as Alleyoop, and today I'm going to share with you everything I've learned about whistles. All over the world, people make whistles. They make them out of many different kinds of things, out of wood, out of stone, out of bones, out of metal, and they make them for many different reasons. Today I'm going to show you my collection that I've been making for many, many years. Maybe you can count how many there are. The first one I'm going to show you comes from Hawaii, and it's made out of a nut called the konani nut. The children there showed me how to make this. You poke a hole in the nut, clean all the nut meat out, and blow into it, and you have a whistle. The next one comes from India, and it's made out of the horn of a cow. This whistle comes from Africa, a place called Tanzania, and it's made out of a stick. Lots of whistles are made out of sticks. This one comes from Alaska. It's made by Eskimos out of a tusk of a walrus. They use this when they go fishing, not to catch fish, but to find their way back home when they're lost in the fog. If they're out in the fog and they can't find their way back to the shore, they blow their whistle, and then someone on the shore blows their whistle, and that's how they find their way home. The next one's made out of stone, a kind of stone called soapstone. It's called the two-fish whistle. It's a lot like the Eskimo whistle. It comes from Canada. This whistle comes from a really strange place called 7-Eleven. It's called the Oscar Mayer Weenie Whistle. The next whistle I'm going to show you comes from a place called Umatilla. The Native Americans make these whistles. This one's made out of a turkey bone. Traditionally, the Native people made theirs out of eagle bones. And I'll tell you how they caught an eagle. They would dig a hole in the ground large enough for two men to lay down in. They'd cover that hole with sticks and grass, and they'd put a dead rabbit on the top. And they'd lay there and wait until an eagle landed. When the eagle went to get that rabbit, they'd grab his feet and his head, and that's how they caught an eagle. And they used every single part of it for something. The bones they made into whistles. The next whistle comes from the theater. In the olden days, before big tape recorders and things like that, people had sound effects equipment, and this is one of the pieces of equipment they had called the wind whistle. The next whistle comes from the days of George Washington from the United States, and this is a stick whistle too. It was carved and turned on a lathe, and they used this to signal each other when they were hiding out in the bushes waiting for the redcoats to come. When the redcoat soldiers heard that, they thought it was some kind of bird. All right, now we're getting to a whole group of whistles, all made of metal, and they all come from the same place, Great Britain. This is a train whistle. Now, I can also make the train whistle sound like a calliope from the circus merry-go-round. This one is a trolley whistle. This is a fireman's whistle called the siren. Uh-oh, it's not working. This one is a policeman's whistle called a bobby whistle. Now we have a school teacher's whistle. Recess is over. This is a music teacher's whistle called a pitch pipe. It can change its sound. First we have a high pitch sound, and you can change it, make it, or even. Music teachers use that to start a song. Here we have a shepherd's whistle used to train dogs to bring the sheep back in. The first sound, and it has three of them, go get the sheep. The second sound would be to keep the sheep or hold them. And the last one would be to bring them home. The next whistle is called the double whistle. I think it's an engineer's whistle. It's got two whistles in one. A shrieky one and a really shrieky one. Now we have a bosun's pipe. Sailors use these. The captain on a ship tells the first mate the orders. The first mate tells the bosun, and he tells all the sailors by blowing the whistle. Next, we have a sounder's horn. This is used to bring men back to the ship after they've gone ashore and they're too far to get it any other way, so they toot the horn, and back they come. The last one from Great Britain is called the scout whistle. Boy Scouts have these, Girl Scouts have them, and whenever they go to the forest, they always take a whistle, just in case they might get lost. Those are the ones from Great Britain. All right, now we're getting to the musical whistles. They're like musical instruments, but they're so small I consider them whistles. This one is a panpipe from Ecuador. It's made out of bamboo. The next one comes from Central America, and it's called an ocarina. This one's made of wood. They're also made out of clay. The next one comes from Nepal. It's made out of metal, and it's called an ocarina. Almost the same word as ocarina, but for some reason in Asia they call them ocarinas. The next one is the littlest, teeniest, tiniest harmonica in the entire world. It's all the way from Germany. Now for my strangest of all whistles. This is a nose whistle. It comes from Brazil, and you play it with your nose. Now you use your mouth too. By changing the shape of your mouth, you can change the sounds that you make when you blow into it with your nose. Another one from Brazil is called the samba whistle. Now we have another one from Africa. This whistle's made out of a stick. I'm going to tell you how they turned it into a little flute. They took this big stick and they carved it. Then they took a small stick and caught it on fire, and they burned a hole down the middle of it, but not all the way through. Then they burned a little hole on each side and a little hole in the bottom, and they turned a little stick into a flute. All right, now we have one from the United States called a kazoo. People make these out of metal, they make them out of plastic. This one's made out of wood. Do you know what happens when you blow in a kazoo? Nothing. You have to talk to your kazoo. Here's what you say. Doot, 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 doot. Then you can play any song you want. All right, the last of the musical whistles is my favorite. And it's also an American whistle. It's called the American slide whistle. Now you can do that, but you can also play a song on it. All right, now we're getting to the animal whistles. People make animal whistles to get animals to do things. They train animals. And the first one's probably the most famous of all the whistles. It's called a dog whistle. People use these to get dogs to do things. Now, only dogs can hear this, is what most people think, but I happen to know that people can hear it too. And when they do, they bark. I didn't hear anybody barking. Well, this next one also comes from Brazil. They make a lot of whistles in Brazil. This is called a cricket whistle. You can make it sound like one cricket. Now people use that You get crickets out from underneath their refrigerator. They also use it in the summertime. They hide outside in their neighbor's backyard when the windows are open, and they make it sound like this. Like hundreds of crickets, and that drives their neighbors crazy. Here we have an alligator whistle made out of a real alligator's tooth. This one came from Louisiana. People use this one down there to get alligators out from under their couch. You have alligators under your couch? Probably not. Here we have a whistle made by Native Americans out of an antler, and they carved it into the shape of an eagle, and it sounds like an eagle way up high. Another bird whistle, this one from China. It sounds like an owl. This, of course, is made of wood. Now we have the cuckoo whistle from Haydn's Toy Symphony. All right. Well, there are more animal whistles, mostly birds, of course. This one sounds like a crow. This one sounds like a quail. You know that little bird with the feather on top of his head? If you want to make friends with quail, just make that sound out in the forest. Now we have a goose whistle from Canada. And then a little tiny songbird whistle from China. And the last one on my necklace is this bird whistle from Switzerland. Looks like a bird, and when you press the feathers down, its mouth opens and shuts, and it changes the note like a little flute. Those are all the ones on my necklace, but I have two more. In China, they've been making these for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. It's a water whistle called the nightingale whistle. I hope you've heard the story of the nightingale. You can probably see the water splashing out. And the last one I'm going to show you today is made out of the largest seed in the world. It's made from a coconut, and it came from a place called New Guinea. Those are all the whistles.